Ryan, you're all set?
We're live. Yep.
We're live, okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to the January 8th Town of Southampton Select Board agenda. You're being recorded as well as streamed out live, and hopefully you can hear us much better since we just had the audio system tweaked a few minutes ago. If you can join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just to stay consistent, I'm John Martin, Francine Tishman, Jim Labrie, and Matt Rowland. Maureen Groden is not here tonight. And it's going to be interesting speaking directly into these things.
Hearing ourselves speak.
So if anybody at home, if we start ebbing and flowing, please give one of us a text. Okay, appointments, we have none. Hearings, we have none. Reports. Ed, why don't you start off this week?
Sure. The repairs to the loose metal roofing panels and the missing roofing panels at the Zipta barn were completed yesterday. So those are nailed down so they aren't loose anymore, and where there were areas that they were missing, coiled material was put in so to keep the rain and snow from going into the barn. The hazard mitigation grant for the replacement of the water main in the Manhan River has been completed, reviewed by MEMA, and has been submitted. We did receive notice today of the upcoming Hampshire Regional School District union negotiations. The member towns boards of selectmen will elect one member to represent the 5 boards, or the 5-member communities, to be a member of the negotiating committee at the Hampshire Regional School Committee meeting on February 4th. This will be added to the January 22nd Board of Selectmen agenda. We have submitted an application under the DLTA, which is the local assistance program with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, to update the town's open space and recreation plan. I attended the Finance Committee last night and went over the proposed warrant articles for the special town meeting with them. Old business, the next special project I will be focusing on will be finding a qualified consultant to perform the feasibility envelope study evaluation of the police station, which is the old town hall on East Street. And the emergency generator for town hall is still scheduled to be shipped on January 14th. Upcoming January 2019 Select Board meetings are the Tuesdays of the 15th, which is a special Board of Selectmen meeting, and the 22nd, which is the regular meeting.
Any questions for Ed? Okay, thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
Jim, you want to start down there?
Yeah, I have nothing new. Planning board meets tomorrow night, so nothing at this time.
Francine?
Okay, I attended the Hampshire Regional High School committee last night. We had a special guest, Representative Lindsay Sabadosa, attend the meeting. She not only spoke to the group on her priorities and her new position, one of which includes more aid to local school districts, which we're all desperate for. And the other, I think, important thing to me was after she was done speaking, she sat down and she stayed for the entire meeting and listened to what everyone had to say, what all the issues were. So I appreciated that. At the meeting, they adopted an anonymous reporting online system for incidences. The system is monitored by a third-party provider, and the administration is alerted of any major areas of concern. They talked about the budget. They plan on a level service budget for 2020, which obviously has built-in increases because there are increased projected costs in healthcare and other things. Talked about the capital improvement plan for 2020, totals a little over $500,000, and it covers technology, curriculum building, vehicle fields. It's a pretty comprehensive plan and seems to be very well thought out. They also presented several new courses that will be offered to improve the curriculum at Hampshire Regional beginning next September. So all in all, it was a really good meeting. Thank you.
A question on the Hampshire Regional budget. We pay our same percentage on operating and capital expenditures. Is that built into the budget they send us, do you know, or is that a special appropriation?
No, I think it's built in.
Okay, so
Yeah.
as long as it's built in, okay. Thanks. Matt?
Yep. Board of Health has met before this meeting, and I was unable to attend. Capital Committee's meeting on January 15th to discuss some upcoming projects. And PQB, we have a list of PCFs that I'm sure we'll discuss tonight.
Okay, thanks. And we've already talked about Planning and Finance Committee, so I won't rehash that. Quarterly reports, boards, committees, departments, none. Old business, 111 Glendale. As of now, we haven't gotten an update on the grant. Is that correct, Ed?
That is correct.
Okay, so the end of December has come and gone, so hopefully we hear about that soon. 19 budget and expenditures review. Nothing new on that, Ed, right?
No, it's just on here as
Right,
a
place.
reminder.
Placeholder. In the Hampshire Regional, same thing. We met with the folks from Hampshire Regional in Norris last week, and we owe them an email with some follow-up questions. And East Street Bridge.
On here as a reminder, and we may come back and revisit that after executive session.
Okay, and now we have a town meeting warrant article question put forth by Mr. Palermo.
Jim Palermo, 68 Glendale. You know, I'm very grateful for the courtesy that's been extended to me by the Select Board when I have appeared before you regarding the new bylaw that protects the rights of citizens to speak at a town meeting. I have to be honest that I'm a bit bewildered why the Select Board is so reluctant to submit this very important issue to Town Council for a legal opinion. With sincere respect for the hard work and dedication of each member of the Select Board, I submit that the members are not qualified either individually or jointly to offer a legal opinion in this matter. In fact, as none of the members is a lawyer, nor am I believe it might be illegal for you to make a legal opinion. The issue is, to what extent is a bylaw binding upon the town moderator after it has been duly adopted by a near majority of voters at a town meeting and after it has been approved by the Attorney General? And to what extent does Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 17, invest the town moderator with the power to censor or preclude residents of the town from speaking in support of or in opposition to a matter pending before the town meeting? Believe me, I wish that there was an easy way to accurately discuss this matter, but it's a technical matter, and there is not a simple manner in which to discuss it. That is why I'm requesting that the Select Board include in its submission to the Town Council the brief that I prepared and submitted to the Select Board, the Town Administrator, and the Town Moderator in the form of a letter dated December 17th, 2018. How would any one of you feel if your chair interrupted you because he felt what you were saying was hearsay or irrelevant? As a citizen, I'd be outraged, as you are our elected executive branch representatives, and I am outraged when the town moderator interrupts a speaker at a town meeting based on his arbitrary and frankly ill-informed idea of what constitutes hearsay, or because he feels that when the speaker is saying is not relevant. We tax-paying voters have the right to speak at a town meeting after we have been duly recognized by the moderator, providing we obey the rules for decorum, do not exceed our allotted time to speak, and we have a reasonable belief that what we say is relevant and material to the issues at hand. The guide used as our town meeting time states at page 20 that the town moderator has the power to give liberty of speech and silence unreasonable and disorderly speaking. I agree with that. It does not vest the moderator with more power or authority than than what is absolutely required in order to run an orderly and effective meeting. We don't vest any elected official with any power beyond the minimum. That's part of our Constitution. All of this is discussed in greater detail in my December 17th letter, and I will be happy to discuss here if you want, but all I am asking is that this issue be submitted to Town Council in a professional manner, which in my view would include my December 17 letter, as well as any brief or statement that the town moderator, the select board, or the town administrator may wish to have included, as well as any other statements deemed appropriate by the select board. Based on 35 years of experience in which I frequently had to prepare requests for advice from legal authorities, I urge you to submit this request for advice in a formal manner, not a brief email or a phone call, in order to ensure council has the opportunity to consider all the legal issues involved in the complex matter. So in other words, all I'm asking is we send it to our lawyer and ask what is right.
Thanks, appreciate it. I don't think, just to, address something, I don't think we're reluctant to send it. We weren't clear, we wanted to put it over to another meeting so we had time to study and look at it. I believe you said you wanted to resubmit something, so that's why it's on the agenda again tonight. Now we're gonna decide what we're gonna do with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just,
it's good to hear both
my
sides.
sense of urgency is that we have a town meeting coming up
Yeah,
next month.
right.
And I would like to have it resolved by then.
Well, one of the issues we have is we just send something too quickly to legal counsel, we get a bill and we don't get the answer we want. So we wanna make sure what we submit is what we want an answer to, like basically you're saying. But thanks for all the input, I appreciate it. Since we opened this up for someone to come up to the podium, is there anybody else that wants to address this, or have we spoken enough about it? Okay. Okay, so the question is, and we've heard both sides, this is the second round, and the question is whether we feel we should submit it to our legal counsel for a formal interpretation. And, you know, Mr. Palermo's backup information should go along with it because he's citing various chapters in sections of the law. And his interpretation, again, he's not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, and nobody else here is a lawyer, so, but there is two sides to it, it seems. And personally, I've heard people having issues with that as well, so I think there's enough interest out there to finally get a decision, be it the way Jim is going or the way the town moderator is going, but I don't think we want to keep bringing this up time after time. So what's the board's thoughts on this before we entertain any motions? Anybody want to jump out there?
I guess I just want to know what the clear, if we go to town council for this, I want to know what the clear outcome of this is, because, I mean, my understanding of this is that the town moderator has broad discretion over town meeting, and, you know, I'm not sure, I mean, is this are we looking for like some type of a symbolic ruling for this, for the amount of money that we're about to spend on this?
No,
I mean,
it was the AG's
or
office.
are we like literally gonna, is there literally gonna be an outcome for this that's gonna be very specific in nature, that everybody's gonna know about, that's going to censor and control the town moderator?
Well, I don't think censor and control
Well,
is
I mean,
anything.
isn't that what?
No, the AG gave a decision, and it was based in, I think there was a caveat that was put in there that muddied the water for a lot.
No, I saw that.
Because there's a lot about, I don't want to get into, an hour discussion again, a lot about disorderly conduct in the law, and is somebody going up there giving their opinion and citing, a newspaper enough to say that's disorderly and you can't talk about it. So is it restrictive? I guess, is the town moderator restricting a public comment or not based on the law and the interpretation by the AG?
What I struggle with is really understanding what is hearsay. I mean, I know what it is. But when you think about the sources of information, some are very reliable and some are not. So are we perpetuating something that isn't correct or incorrect. And there have to be some parameters around, and I don't know what they are, and maybe with a legal decision, we can get that. Because I see both sides.
Yeah. I'm going to interject for a second. I'm not going to let you get up, Jim, for a minute. I think from the devil's advocate side is somebody out in the audience, we got to figure they're all intelligent people, and me going up there saying I read this in the newspaper, I think it's true. The average person out there is going to make their own determination whether that's
Exactly.
true or not, rather than me not being able to say it and get it out there. That's my interpretation. Francine or Jim or?
No, that's it.
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, I appreciate bringing this to us. Since the bylaw has been in effect, has there been a violation of that bylaw? We had one town meeting. I know it's only been one town meeting. But has there been a violation? That's sort of where I stand. I mean,
I just
We
don't see
can-
a book of it, yeah.
we can theorize that, previously maybe there was, but since the bylaw was in effect, there hasn't been a violation yet.
May I respond?
Yeah, go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear.
Yeah.
That's where I'm thinking.
But if we could just keep it to a
Oh,
few
yeah,
minutes.
Yeah.
but at the last select board meeting and previously, the town moderator has said that the new bylaw is not binding on him and that he will continue to apply a hearsay rule. The hearsay rule is a rule of evidence
Yep.
that is intended strictly for trials, not for a town meeting. And frankly, if you would watch the last few minutes of the tape, and I'm not speaking personally, but it's on the tape, the town moderator said, well, hearsay, you have to sort of sense what's going on at the meeting. That's arbitrary. And if a citizen cannot come up and say, I read in the paper that, and then be cut off as saying hearsay, while the police chief can come up and say, those radar stands save accidents, that's hearsay. And I'm trying to make the point that it's up to I'm not limiting the power of the moderator, but there's no elected official in the United States, except perhaps Sheriff Arroyo, whatever his name is, that has the absolute authority to arbitrarily apply rules that infringe on the constitutional rights of individuals.
So
And
let me
that's very serious.
let me paraphrase this, if I even close to getting it right. You feel that people should get up there and say whatever they feel on the topic, as long as it's not offending somebody and it's not egregious and
And have a reasonable belief that what they are
Right.
saying is relevant.
okay.
So
And
if
you-
we're talking about a budget and they come up and talking about elephants being mistreated
Right.
at the circus, that's obviously the town moderator can say we're not discussing that.
So you're
But when
saying,
a person stands up and says, we're borrowing money from the CPA, and I want to know, how are we going to pay that back? And they're told that's not a relevant question. Well, of course it is.
okay.
And if we're going to discuss issues openly at a town meeting, which is the legislative branch of government, and I refer you back to that page 20 of the rules, the moderator has the right to eject people if they're misbehaving.
So you're saying you don't feel people are free to go up and do that
Right,
now?
and we have
Okay.
the right to address our government.
Okay.
That's protected in the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Okay,
And it bewilders me that we can't grasp that.
okay. Well, I don't think we don't grasp it. I think it's just definitions, but, yes, sir.
That's my problem.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street, Town Moderator. I respect the citizens' right to react to a moderator saying something they said was out of scope, or was out of order, or once or twice hearsay. There is a section 15 of chapter 39 Mass General Law, which is what the moderators hang their hat on. And it's the moderator shall preside and regulate the proceedings, decide all questions of order. So if something is out of scope, it's called out of scope. Sometimes it's gavel down. If somebody wants to compare a police car with an ambulance, that's not allowed because the article, the motion under the article, was only for the police car. The ambulance doesn't exist in that article. So that will be ruled out very strongly by the moderator. That's out of scope. If somebody gets up and quotes Fox News, if somebody else wants to get up and counter that and quote MSNBC, somebody else wants to get up and counter with CNN, boy, we have a lot of different information. The whole concept of the legislative body is for somebody to get up and speak their heart and their mind, not to be quoting something that may or may not be true. And there's more specifics. It's tough to give generalities. Depending on how something is presented, it may squeak by and not be out of order. Presented differently, more black and white, then it is out of order. And if somebody says something in one sentence about something out of context, most towns do this, and the conversation goes on, fine. But if somebody gets up and says, I am going to quote from a certain article dated a certain time, well, I don't know if that article has been amended or corrected or if that person's memory is correct. And so it interferes with the moderator running the meeting. And any interference with the moderator running the meeting isn't acceptable. And this moderator bends over backwards for people to speak. We've gotten rid of bullying, intimidation, lecturing, and I refuse to call the question when there are people in line at the microphone or willing to speak. So I have bent over backwards to let everybody speak, and I've helped those who need assistance in making amendments. And I've even asked for any amendment to be brought to the moderator so I can look at it and not be surprised at a meeting. Because if it's confusing to me as the moderator, it may be confusing to the audience and it'll be voted down. Okay. So that is the section 15 gives the moderator wide authority, responsibility in the meeting.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question based on what you said, because this topic has been out in the community since it was first on the agenda a couple weeks ago. So you're saying people should be able to speak their heart and their soul. Right. So I'm going to try to summarize some of the comments I got. So if I go up there and want to speak my heart and soul, and I want to reference an article or something I've heard, I can't do that. And that's what I think Jim is talking about. Why can't I take my 5 minutes?
You're not referencing your heart and your soul. You're
but
quoting
if I really
else.
believe in what's said in that article,
then paraphrase, state the beliefs. You don't have to hang your.
But what I think I'm saying is the wordsmithing that sometimes is used at the town meeting is very restrictive from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, to be honest. So it should be more open, I think, is a contention that we're getting
Well,
from some
that's a judgment
sides.
with the should.
That's my heart and soul belief, though.
Okay.
So that's why I say that. And that we struck
That's why
down.
we have a moderator and not an MC.
Right, but that restricts people from saying something like that when that's what the person believes, and I think that's what we're trying to get at here.
But we also don't want to intimidate people who aren't literary enough to quote something. We want them to get up and speak their simple heart and soul.
Do we need to protect our residents who come to the town meeting, or do we feel that they're not intelligent enough to grasp what's going on and ask questions?
There's only been 2 instances in 13 years the word hearsay was used. Once for a previous speaker and once for another article.
Right, but
That's
the
very
words,
small minority.
but those words, what I've been hearing is that, in seeing, is that people aren't able to go up and kind of say what they want to hear.
You're right, I won't let people bully me or the people in the audience, and I won't let them intimidate me or the people in the audience. You're correct.
But that's your opinion, that they're being intimidated or bullied when they just want to tell their heart and soul at the meeting based on the topic.
No, I'm talking about the people who bully, and you know what I'm talking about, John. You sat in enough to know.
I honestly, I don't agree with that, but, okay, but yeah, that's why everybody has their different opinion. Yeah. So, thanks, appreciate it.
Sure.
I think somebody's behind you, yeah. Welcome.
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. You're an elected official. You are, you are, you are. Several of you are. Several of you are. I am. When you're an elected official, people are putting their trust in you. And when elected officials get up to speak at special town meetings, annual town meetings. They want their voice to be heard. Our town elected them to help us make choices. But if they're gonna be shot down every time they get up there, you're not gonna wanna have people be on boards, commissions, committees, and they're surely not gonna wanna get up at town meeting to voice their opinion. That's my heart and soul.
Thank you. You get a rebuttal.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. It was stated earlier at a meeting, maybe 3 meetings ago, that the Finance Committee was not allowed to speak. Well, first of all, we are individuals at a town meeting. Nobody was not allowed to speak. Someone who happened to be on a committee spoke twice, and our guidelines are no more than twice, and that applies to everybody. So everybody had a chance to speak twice for 5 minutes each.
Good, thanks.
John,
Okay,
could I just bring up one thing here? I
absolutely.
just want to, not that I don't want to have an opinion on it, I'm just going back. Did I hear you right, Jim? You said the AG's office, Attorney General's office, said that the town moderator does not have to follow the new bylaw? Is that what you said?
If you're going to respond, please come up here.
Yeah, I'd just like to, I don't know if I heard that.
No, Mr. Floyd did, and he just repeated that. The bylaw would prohibit the town moderator from using hearsay or preventing a speaker from speaking if the speaker is being courteous, speaking on topic, and complying with other rules like time limits.
How would you enforce that?
Well, the thing is, he could not say, if you're speaking for 5 minutes, you speak for 5 minutes, okay? If I want to cite what I think the last meeting, Francine, you mentioned, how about a learned article? If I want to quote a learned article, the town moderator would not permit that. And if I say, my heart and soul tells me this, how does anybody in the audience know if that's true or false? It gets complicated because we are using the hearsay evidence rule, which is beyond my ability to explain, but that is a booklet published by the United States Supreme Court listing the federal rules of evidence, a section of which deals with hearsay, to which there are all sorts of exceptions, and it's meant for judicial proceedings, not town meetings. Okay. And one other thing I forgot to mention, sua sponte, notice I didn't ask for it, I got a letter from the Assistant Attorney General on December 24th. You want me to read it or just hand it out? It's short.
Sure, go ahead.
I know we have an opportunity to talk about the contents of your letter and concerns pertaining to the moderator's decision at town meeting and resulting citizens petition bylaw. However, I wanted to formally acknowledge our receipt of your correspondence dated September 5th, 2018. In our last phone call, we discussed bringing your concerns regarding the moderator to the attention of the Board of Selectmen. I hope the board was able to assist you in this matter.
Okay.
All right. The point I'm trying to say is the section of the Attorney General's office where refers to Section 17 is not a caveat. The Attorney General, this Assistant Attorney General told me, the Attorney General's office is obligated to advise the Select Board of all relevant sections of the law. They approved the bylaw. The bylaw was approved. The Attorney General says, we approved the bylaw. But you should be mindful of Section 17, which applies only when somebody is misbehaving. And again, for all the reasons set forth in my letter, the bottom line is I disagree with much of what the moderator has said, but that's why we should submit it to an attorney, our town council, to explain it to us what to do.
Okay.
Yep. And how you'd enforce it if someone says that's hearsay. That's okay, I can do hearsay.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Ed, it's a memory test for me here, but didn't we have a letter from the AG that on that particular question it said that we should submit it to our local town council for our definition? I'm trying to remember where I saw that.
I can't directly recall if that was for an from the Attorney General or not.
How long ago?
No, just recently, I just read it today or yesterday.
Was it sent to all of us?
Again, if, I'm not exactly sure where I saw it, but maybe I'm confusing it, so I don't want to bring that in. So we've heard from both sides a couple times here. So I think our options are continuing it, which is not a good option at this point, in my mind, or making a motion to support sending this to the town attorney with all the documentation that was submitted by both sides, so that she can make a determination and we can finalize this, because town meeting is coming up, so. So does somebody want to come up with a motion either for or against submitting it to the town attorney?
We have someone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. I have no position to, I'll wait till
Excuse me just a second.
him.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I have no position to go against any town bylaw. I've upheld all the town bylaws, and I have no position to go up against any town bylaw.
Yep, thank you.
It says it here.
Oh, that's in our packet.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah, this is just a letter from the
Attorney General's office.
Attorney General's office. I'm just going to read a paragraph, and as you folks look it over, if I'm segregating too much, let me know. But it says a new section 9 cannot be applied in a manner that interferes with the moderator's authority to preside over and regulate town meeting, including the moderator's authority to request a person to, in quotes, be silent. See General Law, Chapter 39, subsection 15 through 17. The town should consult with town council with any questions on this issue. That's what I was referring to. And the paragraph above that, and just taking some words out, is if a person after warning from the moderator persists in disorderly behavior, which I think is a phrase that Mr. Palermo was keying on too.
Everybody's on the same page on that one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just the
I think so.
hearsay.
And I think it's interpretation of what can and can't be sent. So we're back to, where do we go from here? What's your, you want that back? Thank you.
So,
I mean, I personally would like to see how this new bylaw that we've instituted plays out a little longer.
I don't think we have a new bylaw.
Well, the one that the AG that amended
Oh.
at the end of it.
Yeah, just seeing how it goes forward.
I suppose, I mean, to get an opinion may not be, I mean, I'm not saying there was any violation, but maybe to get an opinion and put this to rest once and for all, I don't know. That, there's a possibility.
Again, somebody's gonna need to throw up a motion here.
I mean, my question still lingers because I don't feel like I got an answer to it. I'm just not sure what the, and I need an answer to this in order to, I mean, I agree with you, Jim, but I totally agree with you, but I still want to know, like, what is the end result of whatever ruling we get? And what's the enforcement mechanism? Like, is somebody going to literally enforce this in the middle of town meeting?
I'm gonna
Just trying to
only,
figure this out
I'm
because
only
like,
gonna-
I think we're going to expend a
Point of
serious
order,
sum
I
of
think,
money.
is all that can be
yeah,
called. I
point of
think.
order, and
And
then
who's going to be the one to call it?
anybody.
Any town meeting resident can call
Any,
a point
any
of order.
resident can do that.
Right.
Then the moderator
Is
will
that-
And
recognize
isn't that going to
that.
be a matter of opinion?
And then it will be, can be reported up to the Attorney General's
Oh.
office for, you know.
You know, I know Jim is saying he wants to put this to rest. We get an opinion, but the opinion is gonna be one way or another, and are we gonna be back to where we are is my concern.
Yeah,
Or
that's kind of
how-
what I'm thinking.
Can we mitigate this so that, I don't know if there's any, whatever the attorney says, if there's a compromise or a better understanding, perhaps, of the issues that might help resolve this kind of, I'm not going to call it disagreement, but two different ways of looking at the same thing.
Well, I think that's the issue, yeah.
So-
I think one party's feeling that it's too tight, and the
Right.
other party's feeling it's right where it should be.
Okay.
And
May I just
But-
ask though,
Oh,
how is any law
hold on.
enforced?
Hold on, let's
I mean,
So then what's the point, though?
let's finish here. Well, don't start that. Let's,
yeah,
hold on a sec.
a better understanding would be nice, but I mean, you know, how does, I don't know how accurate it's gonna be. I mean, we're,
Well, I mean, at least I dealt with the Attorney General's office. If there's a ruling, whatever it may be, and it's not adhered to, you go back to the Attorney General, and they have various segments of their office, depending on what the violation is, that come down with an investigator and look into it and go from there. I've been to the Attorney General's office many times.
you know,
But again, I hope the opinion we get is not just legalese, but it's really practical language that everyone can understand and follow, so that we're not all sitting up here trying to interpret what it is that they're saying, because that's the situation in which we find ourselves.
That would be
So
half
we
the,
need some real, I mean, so you're asking, to give direction. We
Totally right.
want specifics, we want precise, we want practical, and we want to communicate it in a way that anyone who steps up to the podium can understand going forward what the rules are,
right.
Yeah,
If-
or what the expectations are.
yeah, we want a clear and concise response, and we want both parties to be able to understand it and accept it.
I'm sort of afraid if we don't try to get the clear and concise answer or a great response that we can understand, that maybe the next town meeting, it may get a little ugly because people are gonna start saying point of order, and it may, maybe if we get an answer from the attorney and the attorney can guide us in saying, look, here's a couple examples, exactly what you're looking for, and it may avoid some chaos down the street. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not the right way to go about it, but it's a possibility.
Okay. How are you? Before you go anywhere with this,
Historical
So,
Society, you got something?
do we have any other questions up here before we allow a comment or two from the public again?
I'm still pondering with this.
Okay. Hi, introduce
Bob-
yourself.
Bob Koza, 181 College Highway, Historical Commission. A legal opinion, regardless of how it comes down, has to be enforced in some way, and I don't know how any legal opinion can be enforced. We're talking about an elected official here, and if the citizens of the town are unhappy with the way that an elected official performs, they vote him out of office.
Yeah, I think that's a radical solution to some people's problems. I understand, yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's, I'm right with you, I don't think there's that big of a chasm here that we want to, start that talk. I think we're having a discussion between two separate groups, and there's the definition of how the rules applied is different. Both good people, both trying to do their best. So I don't want it to, really take an ugly turn. Hi.
Hi, Cindy Palmer, 71 Glendale Road. I am not in either group. I am looking to assist you a little bit, if I can, with my opinion on this, and that is to create the question to the attorney that gives you a very precise way to go forward, whether it's how to enforce or how to handle. I just heard Mr. Labrie say maybe with some examples. I think that would be valuable. I don't think this is the only time this has come before a law firm that deals with municipal law all the time. They may have some precedent on this. And I just think if it was a leaky roof, you wouldn't be debating, do we get an expert? I think this is critical. I think it's important, and it talks about our rights as citizens. And I think it's really obvious to me that you need a legal opinion at this juncture.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think the key to what she said is we've got to be concise, we've got to have questions, we've got to have examples, and here's what we want answered, boom. And that should be easy for an attorney to do, rather than just throw up a softball and say, what do you think? So,
But us formulating the question
Yeah.
and giving the direction
Yeah.
and making certain that everyone is in agreement with how we're presenting this to the attorney for an opinion.
Yep.
I mean, this just is layers on top of layers here.
but we don't have to do that part right here.
No,
We can-
I
we can
know, but
work
I'm
on
just
that.
thinking ahead, if we're gonna go that route,
Mhm. Yeah.
what that
Well, then,
entails.
we would be past the next town meeting if we're.
No,
gonna
not
do that.
necessarily. I think we can do it quickly, put it together. And Ed, you have to tell me on this. If we voted on and sending this forward to legal counsel, could we, as a subgroup, a couple of us working with you, come up with these, look at the information we were supplied and send it out, or do we have to have a vote on the actual questions?
If the board authorized a couple of you to do that, then you
Okay.
could.
And since it'd be only two, we wouldn't have an official select board meeting. So, that would be the way I would think we'd want to go if we go ahead with it.
And then on the other side, I go back and forth on this.
Yeah.
This is what I was trying to avoid from the beginning. Not that there's a valid issue here from Jim, but if we start making a theoretical example and getting a theoretical answer, and then something happens at the town meeting that doesn't fall within
Fall in,
that, we're
that's-
gonna be in the same
yes,
spot going
exactly.
for legal opinion
You
again.
got it. So we've
So,
expended a lot of
we
money. and
have to
we've-
proceed with caution and try to,
We've expended a lot of money and we don't, and
Yeah,
we're
that's-
still
I'm
in the
just
same
trying to-
spot. That's
yeah.
why I'm worried about that. You end
so
up in the same
Not
spot.
I'm both sides.
Jim.
I mean,
You have to come up here. We're going to hear from somebody we haven't heard from before.
Right. Tom Livingston, 45 Palmway Meadow Road. I've been at a couple town meetings. I'm a fairly new resident, been here a year and a half. I have heard the hearsay be voiced at one of the town meetings. It appears that this is not only one individual's concern, and maybe this is hearsay on my part, but what I just heard was that this has been voiced by several people. So to do nothing out of fear of what you may get, in my opinion, is doing a disservice to the people who come to your town meeting. And I've been to those meetings, both last year. They're several hours long. I understand the need for order, and people are limited in time, but it seems like y'all are struggling over spending some money to answer a question that I would hope would have enough clarity in the answer, and that the town moderator, having been briefed with the answer, that would be able to apply in that meeting. I mean, just common sense to do that. So I guess I just, y'all are really struggling hard on this, and I just don't understand that.
Well, it's our legal budget that gets out
Yeah,
of
we
control.
live in a world of limited resources, just
Yeah.
like everybody else.
But what I think the point he's making is,
Yeah.
it's not the legal budget. We don't want to spend the money, no doubt about it, but is it an important enough question to advance on to the town attorney general? And as this gentleman said, there's people out there that have that issue. Some don't have the issue, some do, but I've heard several since it came up a couple weeks ago, and that's why I was kind of summarizing it here. And if you've heard it as a new resident, so, Ed, there's no issue with the chair making a motion, right?
No.
Okay, just to see where we're going to go with this, I'm going to make a motion that the board authorizes 2 select board members and the town administrator to sit down and craft a set of questions with pertinent examples and include the pertinent information we receive from both parties and send it to the town legal counsel so that we can get a concise answer to the questions that we have out there.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So do we want to discuss it more?
Well, could, when it comes to the examples that we're gonna send, could we get information from Jim and the
Well,
town moderator?
yeah, the pertinent
Have their,
information.
give them an option to put more pertinent information to,
Well, how about if we say that if they want to submit it by end of day Friday, because I don't think we want to have a conversation back and forth with a whole group
Right,
of
right,
people.
no, not now, but have them submit it.
Yeah, so as part of the process with the two select board members and the town administrator, anybody that wants to comment can forward it to Ed by end of day Friday. How's that? That'll be part of the process. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. We're going to do that. Any comments that you want to send in?
You're going to include our submissions?
We will include whatever you submitted so far, and if there's anything else you want to see, and that's for anybody out there. Is this related to this?
Tammy Molinas, 298 College Highway. Thank you for moving forward, because this was something that people signed a petition for. But if you didn't move forward, it's going to hinder people from doing it ever again and voicing their opinions on things. So thank you for moving forward.
No, thank you. Speaking of moving forward, if I can use that as a segue, thank you for everybody having your input. And it's good to see the new residents at town meeting. Keep that up. New business, right of first refusal, Pomeroy Meadow. Ed?
This is on here just to follow up. I had sent you the letter received from the Guashes for the right of first refusal on the 15 acres on Pomeroy Meadow Road. So it's on here just to remind us all of that. Actually, in this particular case, they have a few different, shall we say, pathways to follow. In this particular case, currently there's not a bona fide offer for the entire 15 acres, so there's no purchase and sale. So the statute actually allows the town to do an appraisal on the property. The next step under that is the property owner can do their own appraisal on the property, and there's actually a third step that once those two are done, a third appraisal can be done, which the cost would be shared between the property owner and the town.
So that's if the property owner doesn't agree with our appraisal.
Right,
Okay.
and one of the other paths is that there isn't currently a bona fide offer on the entire property. The property owner could submit the offers on the 5 separate lots as they come in. Those would be bona fide offers. And then, the third and last step is, if we still end up coming to agreement outside of the right of first refusal in the 120 days and negotiate a purchase price and take that to a town meeting for approval, we could do it that way also.
The appraisal, what did we pay last time for an appraisal? Was it a couple $1,000s?
Oh, now you're really challenging my memory.
It
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
I think that's about the
Yeah, it
ballpark,
should be.
yes.
I think we paid, $2,000. We went to the firm in Northampton. So-
Yes, and that firm is the one that did the appraisal for the grant application.
Right. And we can,
That has been updated once with further information, once we got them on the perk test. One of the issues that actually Mark Walmsley brought to light on appraisals that are of this type, which are done, is usually they're not based on, shall we say, a retail sale. They're based on a wholesale sale where, the property owner would sell it to, a developer or a builder, and then that developer would be selling the lot to the end user. So even with the update on the appraisal, it's $425,000, which, if you look at it, is probably undervalued for 5 acres, or I shouldn't say 5 acres, 5 lots which sit on a public road, which, you know, wouldn't need to have development of a road or what have you. So, again, as we get further information back, we might even have that updated.
Okay, so we got to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, it's because, you know, ballpark out of everything, actually even looking at it from the beginning, the ballpark is probably a retail sale for 5 lots there. Could be, you know.
Don't throw any numbers on tape, Ed.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's a wide range. It could be anywhere from $500,000 to $625,000. And those are all over the current appraisal that the town had done, so.
Right.
John,
Yes.
is this on the agenda for the Open Space Committee? Because last time we had a right of first refusal, that committee was formed to handle it.
We haven't had a meeting since we got the right of first refusal, but we can. Next week? So
Is this on your agenda?
can you put it on the agenda?
It will be, right?
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, Rini would normally do that, and she's away, so thanks.
And it's on planning board tomorrow night, the agenda.
Good.
And it was on Concom last night.
And when did that right of first refusal come in? When did the clock start?
The clock started December 10th. We actually had them amend the letter because in their first letter, they said it was not in chapter land, and that was a misstatement. So they amended the letter.
So when did the amendment come in, though?
Amendment came in December 31st.
And that's where I would think it would apply.
I can send it to town council and get their opinion.
That was too easy, Ed.
So, if that's the case, 120 days, the annual town meeting will not suffice if we move forward with it.
Correct.
So you'll have to have.
We'd have to have a special town meeting.
Right.
So-
I was actually, this ends up kind of a convoluted, somewhat tied to the Glendale Road purchase and grant, in the fact that the water commissioners actually approached CPC and asked them for, I think it's $425,000 or $435,000, which might fill the gap between if we receive the grant and what the actual purchase price may be. Please remember that originally we were told the grant applications for the Glendale Road property, we should have an answer in December. That kind of played out. We were told it was going to be announced just before Christmas. Now we're told soon, but because of the fact that CPC does not know the full impact of what that will mean on their funds, because there was 2 separate funding mechanisms, one through the grant and CPC funds, and if we didn't get the grant totally through CPC funds, CPC is reluctant to act on the request for the Pomeroy Meadow property. I was kind of hoping everything would have tied in, might have fallen into place. We'd know the answer on the Glendale Road, and actually this might have been placed on the special town meeting.
But this is gonna have to move along pretty quick. You saw how they acted pretty quick on the Glendale Road property, and it was to the wire on it, so, if they're gonna exercise their right, they're gonna have to get moving.
Okay, next is School Choice Week proclamation request. I received, as Chair of the Select Board, a request, and I'm just going to read it. We're respectfully requesting that you consider joining dozens of cities and county leaders across the country in officially recognizing January 20th through 26th, 2019 as School Choice Week in Southampton. National School Choice Week will feature an unprecedented 40,000 plus events nationwide. National School Choice Week is entirely non-political and non-partisan, and we do not advocate for or against any legislation. Our goal is simply to raise awareness among, Our goal is to simply raise awareness among parents of the public and non-public K through 12 education options available to their children. Last year, more than 720 mayors and county leaders, along with 32 governors, the unanimous United States Senate, and the President issued proclamations recognizing NSCW. Please let me know if you will be able to issue this proclamation and help raise awareness of the importance of opportunity in education. Greatly appreciate your consideration. We have provided both the Word and PDF proclamation template on our website. They give the website. Also, for your convenience, we have provided the suggested proclamation language below. If you have already sent us a proclamation, please disregard this email. If you have any questions, Andrew Campanella, President, National School Choice Week. And just for history, this has come up in the past, and the board has said that they don't feel that they should get behind something like this. They should leave it to the parents and the teachers to discuss on a one-to-one individual basis. So does anybody else want to speak on behalf? No, we're not taking anything now, Joe. Does anybody else want to speak on?
I would just add that the school committees should also weigh in on this.
Rather
Be
than us?
appropriate. No, I'm just saying in addition to the parents and the others
Right,
that you
right.
mentioned,
Yeah,
that they have, I'm sure, a point of view on this as well.
yeah. I
I'm
guess what-
sorry, I didn't see this last night, or I could have raised it, at least at the regional meeting. The elementary one is next week. If you want to put it off that way, or go ahead and vote on it now, it's fine.
In the past, it hasn't been supported by any of the schools in town as,
Yeah, I don't recall that.
yeah. So, Matt, you have a question?
Nope.
So if nobody wants to make a motion in favor of this, I say we just pass it over? Sound reasonable?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we're gonna pass it over. Any other necessary business that cannot await the January 22nd regular select board meeting? Let's see, we have a PCF that's not listed for Ian Illingsworth for temporary or interim police chief that we need to sign.
Yes, we acted on the emergency one at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, but not the full-time interim PCF.
Okay. And that's been signed off appropriately and passed, right? Okay.
Yes.
So
that's
since this isn't with the normal PCFs, can we have a motion to accept it?
So move.
You have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We also, for former police chief Mike Goyette, we have to do a standard vacation payout for him, and that needs to be approved by the board. We're just paying out the vacation that he earned. So can we have a motion on that?
So moved.
We have a
Second.
second? Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, now there's, let me see, 2 articles that were brought up that we're going to put on the list of, that didn't print right, list of articles that are for the upcoming town meeting. Just add it so they'll be on there. One is ambulance revenue transfer, $2,000. Boy, Ed, I'm having a hard time reading this.
Transfer $2,000 from the fire department expense to fire truck maintenance. That's an intra-departmental transfer, does not affect the budget. And then an article which would transfer or appropriated $2,000 from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation to ambulance maintenance. So,
These were both brought in by Chief Workman, correct?
correct.
Okay. So we just, do we need a vote on this, or we're just putting it on the list?
This is just for informational
Okay.
purposes, because these requests for warrant articles came in after the agenda was posted, and as you are aware, the Board of Selectmen set today as the end date for requests.
So Chief, we're just gonna put them there.
And then there's one other request for an article for the special town meeting that came in today. Is the Board of Health is going to request transfer or appropriation of $15,629.01 into the health director's line item, which would be retro to July 1st, 2018. As you are aware from my letter, I was asked to take a look at the rates of pay of the Board of Health Director and the Building Commissioner under the new Massachusetts Pay Equity Act, and I had found that those two positions were more similar than the discrepancy in the two rates of pay currently.
Okay, let me just sign this.
And I've got one for you to sign on the vacation payout, but I left it in my office, so I'll get it at the break.
Okay. Okay, PCFs, do we have these, Ed?
Yes, we do.
I'm going to read them, and you just tell me if all the signatures are there? Or?
Okay.
Okay. First is PCF temporary COA van driver, emergency and temporary, David Beta, Council on Aging. Next is emergency and part-time administrative assistant to the town administrator, Judy Zadonis. Next is resignation part-time van driver, Henry Senecal, for the COA. Next, emergency and part-time circulation desk librarian, Emily Munska, for the library. Next, emergency and on-call lieutenant, Brian Morris, for fire. Next, emergency and part-time lieutenant, Rich Bloomstrom, from fire. Next, emergency and part-time probationary firefighter, for the fire. Now, there's no name on that one. Is that just
That was my mistake. It's for Alec Dotman.
Duckman?
D-O-P-P-M-A-N, Dotman.
Okay. So add his name on there. Next is part-time EMT Catherine Workman, Fire EMS Department.
And you may want to separate that one out
Yep.
because that's been tabled from.
Just what I was going to bring up. So we're going to go items 10 through 16, which excludes the part-time for Catherine Workman. So you have a motion on items 10 through 16 to approve?
I move to approve.
Second. Oh,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're going to go with the part-time EMT, Catherine Workman. This was brought up in the past and brought forward. I know the chief who's here, if we want to ask any questions, went to the Ethics Commission and got a ruling from the Ethics Commission. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Ed?
Hang on a second. I should.
If not, I can dig it up.
I do.
Okay. Do you just want to read it off so we can have it on the record?
I would be happy to.
You don't mind, Chief, right? Okay.
It's addressed to Chief John C. Workman, Southampton Fire Department. Dear Chief Workman, this letter is a response to your request for advice about the Conflict of Interest Law, General Laws, Chapter 268A. You are the fire chief for the town of Southampton. EMTs work for the fire department. Without your participation in the hiring process, the town administrator has selected your daughter to work as an EMT. The rate of pay for EMTs already has been established. In accordance with a wage determination sheet, your daughter will be paid $15.30 per hour because she has 2 years of related experience. As fire chief, you will have general supervisory responsibility with regard to your daughter, although a captain under your supervision will address day-to-day scheduling for her hours, which is done in an online format. You have the responsibility to approve the payroll, which includes your daughter's pay. You have filed a disclosure under Section 19 with your appointing authority, the selectmen. You have asked whether you may engage in supervisory duties affecting your daughter's wages, hours, and working conditions if the selectmen make the written determination included in the disclosure. Section 19. Under the Section 19 of the Conflict of Interest Law, you may not participate as a municipal employee in a particular matter if an immediate family member has a financial interest in the matter. If your daughter will work in your department, Section 19 broadly prohibits you from participating in matters affecting her financial interests. You may not participate in any decisions about your daughter's wages, hours, or working conditions. You may not participate in determinations about her pay, benefits, overtime, etc. You may not participate in decisions about whether to promote your daughter or to discipline her or to terminate her employment. Your agency generally advises that a public employee may not supervise an immediate family member or evaluate her performance because these duties generally affect the financial interest of the subordinate employee. You also may not perform administrative tasks that affect your daughter's financial interests, such as approving the payroll to the extent that it provides payment to your daughter. Section 19 includes a disclosure procedure which an appointed municipal employee may use to seek authorization to participate in a matter affecting an immediate family member. However, you may file a Section 19 disclosure with your appointing authority, the Selectmen. In the disclosure, you should explain the particular matters you are expected to address as a municipal employee and the financial interest that your daughter has in the matters. You may include information in the disclosure indicating that you will not affect your daughter's financial interests firsthand, or that the effect of your participation on her financial interests will be minimal. For example, you could explain that certain matters regarding her wages, hours, or working conditions are already established or will be established through procedures for which you have no responsibility, or that other personnel will supervise your daughter directly rather than you. Upon receiving your disclosure, the Selectmen have discretion to make a written determination that the financial interest you have identified, your daughter's financial interest, is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from you as its employee. The Selectmen are not limited to an all-or-nothing approach. They may determine that you may participate in some, but not all of the matters affecting your daughter's financial interests. If the Selectmen make the written determination allowing you to participate in a particular matter, you may do so. Otherwise, you may not. Participation includes delegation. You may not delegate your responsibility for a matter affecting your daughter's financial interests to someone else. If the Selectmen do not authorize you to participate in a particular matter affecting her financial interests, it will be up to the Selectmen to determine what will happen instead. It may be possible, for example, for the Selectmen to change the reporting structure so that you will have no supervisory responsibilities with regard to your daughter. In some cases, the Selectmen may delegate your tasks to someone else or assume the responsibilities themselves. If they determine that you may participate in some, but not all, of the matters that affect your daughter's financial interests, the Selectmen may assign the tasks you may not do to someone else. It is also possible that because of the difficulties that changing your supervisory duties would cause, the Selectmen will determine not to go ahead with hiring your immediate family member. Confidentiality. Both this letter and your request for advice are confidential by statute. This means that you are free to disclose this advice to anyone you wish, but that the State Ethics Commission may not disclose your request or any other identifying information unless you consent or unless you misrepresent the contents of this letter. I hope this advice has been helpful. Please contact us again if you have any further questions about your obligations under the Conflict of Interest laws. Very truly yours, Amy Bressler-Nee, Staff Counsel.
So I think in the long and short of that, the Ethics Commission is saying that the chief can hire his daughter if we approve it and putting whatever restrictions on it that we feel are appropriate. Is that in a nutshell it?
That's it in a nutshell. And you also have the email that I received back from Michelle Rendazzo at KP Law.
Yep. It basically has the same.
Yes.
And just if I can, Art Lawrence isn't here.
I wrote the memo.
Yeah, I saw that, but I'm not going to go too much into it. I'm just going to quote from a memo that Jim Palermo gave to Art Lawrence on the PQB. It's, if anybody wants to see it, we can forward it. But it says, in other words, the PQB is suggesting that the Select Board seek guidance regarding what factors it is required to consider when deciding whether a decision in this matter confirms to the conflict of interest law, which I think is the pertinent part, kind of brings it back to the board. Am I correct, Jim?
That's correct.
Thanks. So let's go on with this discussion because I know there was some questions and that's why we delayed it a while.
Yeah. Well, I'll start this off, I guess. Reviewing the data, I think I would have no problem if Ed was to sign off on her payroll. I mean, that's one of the sticking issues.
That was one of the recommendations of
from
town
town
council.
council. So if Ed signs off on her payroll, and oversees that, I don't have a problem with it. And, reading the response we got from town council, it's not on our backs if something goes awry here. It's the chief, so he has to be careful. I mean, it is a delicate situation, but, if he adheres to the recommendations of the, ethics, and we have Ed do the financial overseeing, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, in addition to the payroll, it's scheduling and time cards as well. Correct?
Yeah, anything like that, even supervision
Right.
and vacation time off, any of that is gonna have to be handled by someone other, because you don't wanna see it as giving a relative
That is
a
correct.
foot up on something else. Oh, absolutely, come on up, chief.
I'm fine.
Maybe he can answer the scheduling part of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Or how we see, can you just answer how you think that this is gonna go?
Yeah, I mean, John Workman, 13 Belanger. From my interpretation from ethics is that you folks get to choose whether it's appropriate, not appropriate. You can take any part of it and take out, somebody signing off for the hire, somebody signing off on payroll, somebody signing off on scheduling. Honestly, it's a part-time job for my daughter. Whichever way you guys decide is fine. I mean, I think the industry standard for fire service is it's pretty typical to have family that serve under and in fire departments. It's just, it's 351 communities and 95% probably have family that are involved with them now. I don't see this as a huge issue for my personal concern. I got, my daughter earning $15 an hour is not anything that's going to make me rich, and honestly, it's up to you guys. It would seem cumbersome if he had to sign on, from my opinion, it would seem cumbersome if he had to sign on payroll and scheduling. I mean, it just, I've gone to great lengths to make transparency built into the fire department, make it intrinsic. When I came in, it used to be the chief did all the scheduling himself. He did all of the paperwork, and I never saw anybody else's desk. Nobody else got to put their eyes on it. Since I've got there, all the scheduling is on a Google Calendar that every firefighter on the department gets to see who put in for what. So there's an availability schedule, and then the final determination. So they get to see the thought process that went in for who put in for what and why they got it. And so there's just, it's very accountable. I have a captain that does that. I oversee it, but I rarely have to do anything with it because he does a proficient job with it. My deputy collates the pay stubs. That's, they're created by the individual. They're reviewed by my deputy. They're put into a database that I created. I overview it in the end to make sure that everything is, following within budget parameters. And that's the sign-off that I do on payroll. So I don't get involved with the time slips. I don't get involved with the scheduling. I do delegate it. Those people are under my control. It does fit into the ethics thing where you have to ponder if what I do has that great of an effect that you should allow this or not allow it. And honestly, it's up to you guys. I mean, $15 an hour, my kid's got, 2 years at Holyoke, and she's going for a pre-med and probably won't be here for, a career. But she's been vetted. We have a process for vetting. If you're a Southampton resident, you can come into the department, whether, just as a firefighter or as an EMT, brand new, and we'll put you through the programs. My daughter's not that. If you're not a Southampton resident, you need to have at least a year experience as an EMT. You get vetted by all the officers during an officer meeting. That is a review you get Corey checks, you get your background is for, job experience, all that gets vetted out through officers meeting. And she went through that vetting process. So there's nothing, there's no cards held back. There's, like I say, it's a $15 an hour job. We're just, we need, it's ideal to have basics work with a paramedic because it saves money for my budget. So it's a low dollar individual, which works well for me budgetarily. And it fills slots that are open. So, I mean, we
So-
do have slots that are open, and there
So-
is a need for EMTs.
Let-
And I'm
let me
about,
ask
you're
you
about
that.
to get a bunch more PCFs probably next meeting. So, whatever.
Let me ask you that question, because that's what it boils down to. We're gonna have a different process set up, kind of out of the ordinary, because it's a relative. By doing this and doing the extra work in the process, is this gonna gain enough time at the department to make it worthwhile, or is it just once in a great while that it's not worth putting the other people through the process?
Personally, I mean, it doesn't seem worth, I mean, if she does, a shift a week, that's probably.
So if she wasn't here, would that hamper your department? If she wasn't doing that shift, do you have somebody
Yeah,
else
if
to
you,
cover it?
I mean, the department is going to be fine. We're gonna continue to get people. They're all gonna be vetted the same way that my daughter was vetted. I guess for me, for whichever way you decide my daughter's fine, I guess the only frustration that I feel a bit is that, in the fire service, industry standard is that family works in fire department. To say that Southampton is somehow needs special consideration for that to happen, what you're considering now, and for it to be a major argument, I guess I work hard. We have a great group of men and women that come out, for $15 an hour, and will give CPR and, clean you up when you are not in the best of condition. It's not a glamorous job. And to get people to do it $15 an hour, that's not a lot of money. None of my officers are wallflowers. I mean, if there's a concern in the department, then that gets dealt with. There's a process for that. Every call that goes out on the ambulance, every call, any call my daughter goes, any call that anybody goes out in the ambulance, gets reviewed by two 20-year experienced EMTs that then vet that and identify any shortcomings that EMT may have. If there's something identified, it's not a disciplinary action. We try and do an educational opportunity for them. So if someone needs, monitor training or a paramedic basic assist refresher training, many of these things happen every year anyway. But if there's a shortcoming and something gets identified, they'll get redirected to take more training in that regard. Every EMT has to take a basic amount of training every year anyway. So honestly, I don't really, it's unfortunate that this is an issue for the town. I think as Jim said.
It's a state issue.
Yeah. As Jim said, it's not, it happens everywhere. If there's impropriety, that impropriety is for a person. That would be for me. I've brought more transparency and professionalism, in my opinion, and I've got a 30-year career, to this department, to this town, because I believe in it. I believe in helping people. And so I truly don't see, I don't see an issue if you said, okay, you can hire and fire your daughter, because I've been her parent, her dad for a bunch of years, and believe me, I've done my share. I've done my share of discipline, and it's not such substantial money that it's going to have influence on the job that I do.
Right.
And that's really what the ethics question asks: is there a substantial financial interest for the chief? And I can honestly say there's not tremendously financial interest for me here. So, choose whatever you want to choose, because I really don't want to. That's not my job to do. But I would just encourage that there's no bad stuff happening here at Southampton Fire Department. We have a great department with some dedicated individuals, and I'm proud of the department, and I'm proud of my daughter wanting to join and be part of it.
Yeah, and I think as far as bad things going on in the department, I think, and we talked offline, I think we've came where there was a lot of issues going on. You brought it up to this level where it's very professional and getting a lot of good compliments, so,
That's
We
what
want to keep it
that's-
that, we want to keep
Yeah,
it that way.
That's what we want. We want even more than that. In
Yeah.
public education, we're doing some great things in public education. I mean, I really see good things happening for the department yet to come. And so, this is a small issue, and you just got to vote your conscience,
Does anybody have a question for the chief while he's standing there?
No, I just want to reassure you, it's nothing like making an issue, because it's really goes back to what happened in the past. And as
Understand,
select
yeah.
board members, we would not be doing our job if we weren't to now take the correct steps to do it the right way,
Absolutely.
so that we don't have a reoccurrence of what
Yes.
happened in
And
the
I'd like
past.
to think
It's
you did that
nothing to
mainly-
cast aspersions on anyone.
No, and I'd like to think that you went outside for chief, and it's hard to come from the outside in, because honestly, when I made that schedule transparent, there was some challenges to that. So I work hard at transparency, I work hard at that professionalism, and I understand
Okay.
some of the past bad decisions that were made previously.
Right. The reason I brought up Ed reviewing it is we asked him the other day to review the warrants when they come in, so that's why I brought that up.
Okay.
No, and I think it's worth, and I think I just want to say that I think it is still worth considering, even if it does add a little bit amount of busy work, mostly because of the perception, like, you know, what's real in his department is that it's headed in the right direction, it's fully transparent, it's a great department, I mean, there's no question about
Yep.
that. And what would be tragic is if anybody did question that because of this, or created a perception that something was off and we didn't have a check.
But again, that's why we hired the chief, you
Yeah.
know, if he wants to take it on, he's liable for the good and the bad and the ugly, as they say.
Sure,
Absolutely.
there's the-
Yeah.
Yeah, and I fully stand behind that,
But,
you know, for all of the department, not
Yeah.
just this one issue,
Right,
every
right.
bit of it.
and if we go ahead with this, I think we should just have some reasonable parameters for signing off on. So what do you folks think?
I'm okay. I mean, you all have a copy of Michelle Randazzo's response to Ed.
Yep.
And I think she lays it out pretty clearly what he would be responsible for Catherine. You know, questions regarding her status, scheduling, performance.
Well, those are for things for us to
Timesheets, pay,
decide.
and payroll authorizations, okay? And that she suggests that the chief not delegate any of those functions to a subordinate in any event. So if they all go to Ed,
The only thing that,
Covered.
it would just be difficult, like my captain who does all the scheduling, he's got almost 50 employees and it's kind of herding cats. And I don't know how I would
Okay.
physically pull one
Okay.
I would,
that-
employee
that-
I would recommend the scheduling stay with the deputy
okay.
Yeah.
chief.
Okay.
I've
You don't want
seen
to
how
give,
they utilize it, and I'm comfortable with
Okay.
that.
well, plus that would single her out for special attention, which we don't want to
Yeah,
do.
we don't want,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so everything,
But the payroll and any raises and all that, I think,
Yeah, promotions,
Raises,
any of that.
promotions.
I
Any
don't
of
want
that,
anything
yeah.
to do with it, yeah, that's fine.
Discipline, any of that should
Yeah.
come to me.
Yeah, and discipline's a little tricky too, just because there's HIPAA violations in regards to calls. And if a call comes in, I just have to, it's very sensitive. It's not a discussion that happens publicly within the department. It's a discussion that happens within a select group of paramedics that have reviewed that call. And someone's privacy, no matter whose it is in the department, needs to be protected. It's not punitive generally. I mean, if there was a punitive, maybe if there was a way to phrase it, so if there was a punitive
yeah,
action,
that's normal
that would go through, yeah, it's normal procedure for
But
everybody.
if anything came out of that,
If anything
then I
came
would
out,
think.
maybe
yeah,
that would be the
right.
definition. So if there was, a punitive action that came out, that it would then go through it.
Right, at least for a sign off.
Yeah, yeah, and something like that, I think was reasonable.
Okay. So, we all okay with that, with the stipulations we discussed? And Kathy, I'm sure sorted them all out nicely for us?
Good thing Ed's got a secretary now.
Yes.
I could use one of those.
Administrative assistant, Chief.
I'm sorry, administrative assistant.
I'm just kidding.
Absolutely, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, so if somebody wants to make a motion and kind of summarize it,
okay. I move to approve the
PCF?
for Catherine Workman with the following contingencies: that the town administrator would be responsible for performance appraisals, timesheets, payroll authorizations for Catherine, and the exception would be that scheduling would remain within the department.
And discipline.
And punitive discipline.
I'll second that.
Just as a thought, when you're saying performance evaluations, obviously Ed can't do her performance evaluation in a vacuum, so he's got to work with the supervisors who normally do it, and I would say that he just signs
Evaluations
off on it.
are ongoing.
Yeah.
So every call gets evaluated.
But is there a written annual or anything like that?
There's not a written annual because there's an ongoing,
Okay, so there's nothing in writing, sign
There's
off
writing
on?
every time that if there's something identified where an individual needs additional training, that gets identified.
So that would fall into discipline. If it came to a point
Right.
where you had to discipline because of something, then it would go to Ed, but if it's just,
Go to Ed, we should.
Just
amend
normal surveillance of her job, just performance, I think I'd leave it with the department.
Yeah.
Like I said, you have discipline, which would cover if something went wrong.
Yeah, I would
then
say
it would go to that level.
And
I guess so, if we could say punitive action.
Yeah.
Is because if there's just like retraining for something, that seems like a
that's-
lot of,
That's your purview.
yeah.
No,
I just know that I was on, like I said, my dad was chief in the 80s and early 90s. And when I was on, I would rather have had the Board of Selectmen discipline me.
And my daughter probably feels the same way.
But they were easy back then, Jim. Okay, so you want to amend your motion in second just for that caveat on discipline and all that?
Okay, do I have to go through the whole thing or just ask you?
Okay, so we're just reiterating that
And we'll just
motion.
leave out performance or corrective action
Sure.
Yeah,
and scheduling.
but you're putting in punitive action, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Punitive
add
action.
additional.
Punitive action would come to Ed.
Punitive action.
Retraining and in normal day-to-day issues.
Evaluation
All right,
would be left to the team.
I move that we approve the PCF for Catherine Workman with the following caveat that the town administrator would be responsible for signing her timesheets and payroll authorizations and any other issues about general practice, I guess, that would come up. Other than that, the scheduling, performance appraisals, and any, I don't want to say corrective action, but any need for further training would be under the jurisdiction of the department.
Well, normal departmental procedure,
Right,
with the exception of punitive.
right.
I'll re-amend that.
Sorry.
Amend my second to match.
Would anybody want to rediscuss that, or are we all set?
I think we're done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, folks.
Same topic?
Thanks for attending, John.
CF? Okay.
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. My question is directed to Matt. With the PQB meeting, did you guys discuss that minimum wage increased effective the 1st of the January? And will we be getting hammered with a bunch of those PCFs coming through?
Invite.
Actually, may I remind everyone that we are not subject to state minimum wage. We are subject to federal minimum wage.
Right.
Thank you.
We can elect to go in state minimum wage, but we never have.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if it was talked about.
But thanks for bringing it up.
Would you like me to speak to any of that? Because I'm probably not.
About minimum wage?
Yeah, I mean,
Not unless you really want to,
Yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
go there.
I would say run. Okay, I'll go back to the schedule, because what we have here is missing page 2.
Should be on the back.
It should be, you're right.
Here, have mine then.
Or you can go on. Here.
You got what, page 2? Okay, here we go, I got it, thank you.
But you can-
Okay, page 1, we got to finish licenses and permits. Entertainment license, Paisano's Restaurant and Pub, and we carried that over from December 11th because we didn't have what, to check? Was that
No,
what it was?
actually, they had not applied for an entertainment license when we got the package, and
Are
since
they
this
now
is the f-
applying?
Since this is the first time I was going through it, I looked back, and the last couple of years they had, so I actually called Sunita up and said, you didn't apply this year, you've gotten one the last couple of years, is that an oversight, and whatever, and we talked about it, and she said, it's an oversight, I'll send you in the check. I said, okay, I'll just hold off on the license. When I get the check, I'll put it back on the Board of Selectmen's agenda. So that was an oversight on their part.
Okay, so all the paperwork's in order for that?
Yes, it is. And we received the check. They're current on taxes.
Okay, so we need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Page 2, warrants. Francine, have you signed all these?
Yes, I have.
Would you mind reading?
All right. Warrant W 19-25 for $137,620.16. Warrant 19-25V for a credit of $25. Warrant P 19-26 for $265,706.50. Warrant PD 19-26 for $41,863.46. PD 19-26A for $169,487.70. And warrant 19-27 for $129,414.09.
Any questions on those? I like when there's a lot, it gives me a little breathing room here, Francine. Okay, other documents requiring signature, none. Minutes to approve, none. Calendar and announcements. We have a January 22nd select board meeting.
We have one
We have a
before.
And the
special one on the
15th.
And we have
Also.
one, yeah, that's what I'm looking at here. We have one on the 15th also.
Mhm.
And then for February, we need to select some.
We have one for the 5th at, prior to the town meeting. I think
Right.
it's 6
So
at
the
the Women Hour
5th.
School.
Mhm.
Okay, so we did that last time?
Yes.
Procedurally, do we have it figured out so that we are in line with the rules for the town meeting? Do we have one scheduled so that,
We schedule it right before the town meeting, and we meet early.
no, I mean to get all the articles in order and approved.
That's on the 15th.
That's on
That's
the
the
15th,
15th,
yeah.
yes.
Just checking.
Yeah, that's why we had to have them in today. It was today, right, Ed?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, articles for Springtown meeting, we're not gonna read all of those unless somebody has a question on them. We added a couple from the fire chief earlier on. I almost think we did this next one already, but open time for the public.
Oh, you didn't want to schedule further meetings for February, finish the month out?
Yeah, we only have the
Do you
5th.
want to? Okay.
Might as well.
Okay, we're gonna go back, sorry. I'll be right with you. Thank you.
Feb 19th,
The 19th works.
that would be like the next normally scheduled one, I think.
February 19th.
Oops.
Okay.
Yep.
All set?
Mhm.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, go ahead.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. There will be a town moderator, special town meeting, information session in this room on Thursday, January 31st, 7 o'clock.
And there's a lot of articles, so I'm sure it's gonna be an interesting meeting.
I'll gargle before I
Can
come,
you,
so my
and
voice is
you
strong.
send it out?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, when I receive it.
Good.
Yeah.
No, I meant, you broadcast it out?
Oh, yes.
I remember
Yes,
correctly,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, it's broadcast live.
That's all set up with those folks?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Anybody else for open time? Okay, so anything else before we go into executive session? Did I miss anything? No. Okay, we're gonna go into executive session, so, and we're not going to.
Hold on. We will be coming to open session at the end. It says.
Select both, and we re-enter open session, I'm sorry.
Yes, if everything goes well in executive session, and we approve a proposal and contract, we'll need to actually do that in
Okay.
open also.
Sorry, Ryan, but you're gonna have to stay. So I'm gonna read the executive sessions. Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Number 3, discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. This in regards to Local 98, International Union of Operating Engineers, which is for the highway. Executive Session 2 is under the same Mass General Law. This is for police officers, New England Benevolent Police Association. Executive Session 3 under the same law. This is for the dispatchers, New England Benevolent Police Association. Executive Session 4 under the same law with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, but this is on the East Street Bridge. In executive session 5, the same law for the Norris Elementary teachers. I need a motion to go in executive session.
I move to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Roland, aye.
Martin, aye.
Tishman, aye.
Labrie, aye.
Okay, we're going to go into executive session and have a short recess before. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Welcome, we're back in open session. Go ahead, Ed. Want to read that amount in? Okay, just came out of executive session. We have one piece of business we need to take care of. Have an agreement for professional services between Vanas Hagen Brusselin Inc. in the town of Southampton for the East Street Bridge. This is for the
Engineering design?
engineering and design for a total of $221,790. And we need a motion to accept this and to have Ed sign a contract. Actually have the board sign the contract.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is there any other business before we adjourn open session? No? Okay, motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.